Welcome to the 6th season of Faith and Sustainability, a podcast where we continue to explore how our faith traditions call us to care for our common home. I'm Leonard Robinson, your host and tour guide, and together we'll dive into inspiring stories, thought-provoking conversations, and the wisdom that guides us in protecting our common home.
And as always, I'm Kat Doyle, your co-host, Leonard. I do want to, again, as always, remind our listeners that our podcast is made possible through the generous support of Jamie Lanier, the Varlamov Family Foundation, Georgia Interfaith Power and Light, St. Francis Services, and Semco Atlanta. Okay, I am really excited today, Leonard, because this is a little bit different kind of conversation we're going to have. Who will we be talking with today?
Well, it's somebody I met during a webinar at the Catholic Climate Covenant. And, we were talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill and his insight and everything. I said, we've got to get him on the podcast. We have Drake Starling, the Senior Governmental Relations Advocate for Climate Justice at Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice, where he champions inclusive, faith-rooted environmental policy. With a background spanning to the World Bank, USAID, and the Piedmont Environmental Council, Drake brings nearly a decade of experience in law, advocacy, and sustainability. His work bridges federal climate action with grassroots faith communities, inspiring systemic change through grounded in moral conviction and community resilience.
Okay, that's a super big mouthful. Why don't you, Drake, tell us a little bit about how this government guy came to be at the intersection of the natural world and what's going around. What's going on around us?
Put on your seatbelt.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. First of all, thank you for having me on. This is already really great. It feels very electric. But yeah, so I that sounds a lot more impressive than it feels, to be honest, the way that you read my bio. But I did initially start out, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I was a paralegal when I first got out of college. And I had grown up Catholic. I went to the Catholic University of America. And it was never really something that informed my work. My faith was never something that really motivated me until I actually read Laudato Si.
Okay, so you are probably aware that Laudato Si is a big deal to us here in Atlanta.
Yes, I am. We have that in common.
As we started off putting out that first Laudato Si action plan, first one in the world, and we really wanted to look at how we could make a difference. And I understand that's a lot about how you came to be where you are, wanting to make that difference. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was, my first big job was at the World Bank. I was a paralegal there at ICSID, which is the international court that oversees international arbitration. And what I learned from that was there are a lot of bad actors in the world, in particular mining companies, oil and gas companies that go into the global south. And they exploit these countries' natural resources for everything that they're worth. And then they set up a system by which those countries don't really have the same, economic or legal or political power that those companies do. And so they're always going to end up with the shorter stick at the end of the day.
So let me ask you about that, because I heard you say these bad actors in the global south, and I want you to go a little bit further with what happened, but can you first talk a little bit about the difference between individual intent and societal sin? Because there's a big difference in calling out an individual or a company for something they're doing intentionally than just they're going along because that's the way society acts and does things today.
Yeah, so that really opened my eyes, that experience, because I saw that this was a systemic issue that was global, that the system, in particular the international arbitration system, was set up in such a way that if a foreign company, let's say a United States or a French company, for example, goes into a country like Guatemala and they sign a bilateral investment treaty with the government there, cool. looks like everybody's going to win. The government will get some tax revenue, and they'll, their citizens will be employed by this foreign company. But then let's say the government goes, well, wait a minute, this company is kind of poisoning the rivers in these national parks. You know what? We're going to pass a law protecting our national parks even further, or banning, a certain chemical that this company happens to produce. Well, under that treaty, that company has the right to sue that sovereign government for its actions it has taken in defense of its own people, climate, resources, etc. And these companies will oftentimes sue countries for billions of dollars. If you're a small Central American, South American, or African, or even Asian country, you don't have billions of dollars to just be throwing around. Sometimes they get sued for a good chunk of their GDP. And what we're seeing now is a trend away from international arbitration. A lot of countries in the global South are saying, okay, this is not what we thought it was going to be. We're actually worse off. We're being harmed and exploited yet again. We're going to pull out of these treaties. So that's how bad the system has gotten, where countries are starting to sort of retreat inwards and not participate in like a global action, because sometimes that global action is not to their benefit.
All right, Drake, let's focus on you. You said you were Catholic. You've worked at the World Bank, law, in environmental. When did you get to that point of faith and sustainability? When did it hit? How did it hit?
Yeah.
Give me details.
Yeah, actually, I think I have a good story on that one. It was when I was working at the World Bank, I happened to pick up a copy of Laudato Si because one of my roommates had a friend who was over and had it lying around, left it. And I picked it up, and I became deeply moved by the words that Pope Francis wrote. And it actually sort of called me to action, because I ended up finding this small environmental fellowship at the Piedmont Environmental Council for up-and-coming sustainability leaders. And I thought, now that would really help me move in this direction of trying to better the planet with my faith. And I had to ask my work if I could take a sabbatical for it. And they said, you know what? We know you well. Sure, go ahead. So I did. And I spent about 2 or 3 months out in the mountains, the Piedmont region of Virginia, learning everything about water rights, solar farms, nature and natural habitats, endangered species, and policy all around it. And it was fascinating. And that really sort of catapulted me. But the thing that sort of was the main catalyst, I will say, was reading Laudato Si. It gave me language that I didn't know existed for how I felt about our relationship with the earth and creation.
I think a lot of us got that in reading that document, this way of articulating how we've always felt, or that inner feeling we've had. I do have a question for you. First of all, how lucky were you that you had an employer that said, oh, sure, we know you. Go take that sabbatical.
I know, yeah, that's pretty rare.
Most of us that are here today are going, wow, that would be great. But I do want to go back when you talked about a lot of these smaller countries, or these less economically well-off countries are pulling away from some of this work. And yet Laudato Si talks about this interconnectedness, this need for us to all come together and work together. So how do we get these small countries to not pull away? How do we get these companies to not act the way they're acting? How do we bring these people and these countries and companies together to make a difference and to treat the world well?
Yes. So this is actually a big part of what we're seeing, I think, politically around the world, even in the United States. There's this notion that everyone has been sort of the loser from globalization. You know, our jobs are being shipped overseas, and companies are coming here and doing X, Y, and Z, and harming us, our people, and our health and our environment. So a lot of treaties and trade agreements are now being I would say redressed, like they're now being rewritten with better rules in place, in particular for labor and climate. Now, that's not always the case, but that is certainly one of the ways that I see us moving in a more united fashion together globally. If we make sure that the rules are written to benefit everyone and not just a small subset of our global community, then we can have greater global integration. And I think that's very important.
Okay. Well, Drake, during the webinar, you were pretty outspoken. And so, and I enjoyed
I tend to
it.
be sometimes.
Yeah. But I want to talk, what is the role of faith and faith-based organizations like the Catholic Church in sustainability initiatives and globally and locally?
Yes. So the way that I do advocacy is the way that I do it right now through work. I love what I do. I try to make sure that climate justice, environmental justice, energy and environmental policy, all of that is front and center when I'm meeting with members of Congress or with their staff, so that they understand, hey, I'm working on behalf of a faith-based organization. Catholics do care about the environment, and we want to make sure that we're addressing the climate crisis. We can't put this off any further. And that's how I would ideally say everybody should do that, but of course not everyone can. So I think the way that we can start doing a better job is by making sure that we're discussing it. Having these conversations is, I think, a really good stepping stone, because most people, climate is something that people have a difficult time wrapping their mind around, I find. When you talk about climate change, they're just like, what is that thing? It's just up there in the clouds. But if you make it more tangible, your water is being polluted by these companies. Your air is being polluted by this corporation. We need to regulate them. We need to do something to make sure that this is no longer our mode of production. Then people feel a little bit closer and like a calling. But there are plenty of ways that we can all personally get involved. I think some of them would be to donate to a lot of organizations that are doing work on behalf of the earth, on behalf of protecting our climate.
Do you have any specific examples of what a faith-based organization or what faith will do? Specific times, dates, locations?
Or maybe even a specific example of some kind of an initiative you've led or you've helped a faith community get into.
Yes. So I can think of two, actually. One that we did recently. Unfortunately, a few months ago, the EPA decided to announce that it was going to rescind the endangerment finding. For those that don't know, the endangerment finding is the legal basis upon which the government, in particular the EPA, has the authority to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act, because it is a danger to our air and our water and our livelihood. So the EPA decided we're not going to regulate that anymore. And they created this public comment period whereby any citizen can write a letter to the government saying, hey, don't you dare go through with that decision. We want you to protect our climate. And I cannot take sole responsibility for this, but there was a joint effort led by Franciscan Action Network, Maryknoll Brothers and Sisters, Catholic Climate Covenant, and a few other organizations, including my own Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice, where we came together and we wanted to get at least 5,000 signatures from our community members, from the people that we interact with all the time throughout the country. And we were able to get more than 5,000 signatures. And we ended up hand delivering them to the EPA. And it was a for us, it was a huge moment, because we saw how many people really deeply cared about this and wanted this to still stay on the books. And being able to go to the EPA and hand deliver these gigantic, banker's boxes of individual letters from people saying, don't do this, was a good thrill. That was one action that we took recently, actually.
So I want to maybe flip it a little bit for you. We know that there are a lot of people out there who maybe they don't disagree so much as maybe they aren't completely sold on the idea of climate change and some of the ways that we might be asking the government to regulate and do things. How would you address those people in a caring Catholic Christian way using civil dialogue? How do you talk to those who may disagree with the advocacy work you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something I do all the time, actually. I've found the best way. I mean, when you're working with, Congress, you're not going to find too many people that agree with you on some issues. So you always have to be prepared. The way that I talk about it is really to connect people to their own personal stories. Like, do you really not want clean air or clean water? Do you want pesticides in your food that are going to harm your health? Do you want these greenhouse gases, whether or not you believe they cause climate change, they're still harmful. We know that because nobody likes living next to a smokestack or to a power plant because the water becomes more toxic, the air becomes filled with smog. You're not going to want that for your kids to play around in or on we go to sacred places filled with nature and not to power plants when we want to relax. That's because it's just ingrained in who we are as humans. We need to have more of that. The way we can do that is by protecting our health, our water, our air, and making sure that it's clean for everyone. We can do that by having serious climate action. And we need to do that by transitioning away from these toxic fossil fuels that are really just not just polluting our planet, but killing it.
I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember the next time I'm meeting with somebody who disagrees with me, let's get together right outside the power plant and have this meeting.
Meet you right by the smokestack. Yeah.
Yeah, see if you like that there.
No, that's great.
Hey, Drake, our listeners consist of people of faith who deeply care for creation and environmental professionals who have deep faith. Give us a call to act. Give them a call to action. Give our listeners a big call to action. And after you do that, give everybody your contact information.
Sure, absolutely. I would say a really big call to action right now is pushing back against what the harmful environmental policies that this administration is trying to put on everyone in this country. Make sure that you call your member of Congress and let them know, hey, you need to be doing more to address the climate crisis. I also want people to write letters to the EPA, to the Department of Energy, and to the Department of Interior. Also tell them, do not sell off our public lands. I mean, that's just one of the most unpopular things you can do. Think about it. Do we want to bulldoze Yosemite? No, we want to keep Yosemite the way it is, pristine. It was created by God. Why not keep it the way that it is? It's absolutely beautiful. It's a testament to care for creation. So I think that these are all important ways that we can all get involved if you're not, right here in D.C., which most people are not.
We're fighting something like that right here in Georgia right now with the Okefenokee and looking at a World Heritage Site because of what it does and what it means. So based on that, I do have one question, and I do want to make sure we get your contact information, but where would people go to find, and this is the important part, nonpartisan, good information about the legislation that's coming up and all that, or maybe it is partisan, but to see both sides? Where do we find that information?
Well, I do have two places. One of them I would have to say is Network Lobby's home website. We do have a blog section where we write on different issues. We have a team of advocates and lobbyists that we work on immigration, healthcare, taxation. I, of course, work on climate justice and environmental issues. If you're interested in a particular topic, we write blogs nearly on a pretty frequent basis to make sure that our viewers and our members are aware of what's going on in a way that affects them. Secondly, and this is not a paid subscription or a paid advertisement, I would go to Heat Map News. They are great at keeping up with environmental news that's happening right now at the federal level and even at the state level. You could also try Inside Climate News because there are always environmental issues happening right in your very backyard. if not in DC.
So no offense, but are there places where a more conservative voice could find good information? And again, Network Lobby has great information, but there's flip sides to every story and all of that. And I'm sure you guys keep track of the information coming from both sides. Where might a more conservative voice go looking?
I would say, I'm drawing a blank on this right now.
And again, I'm not trying to say this because I disagree. I'm saying this because I think it's important that we do give people who have differing opinions the opportunity to get scientific information so that we can enter into debate with good information. And so, here in Georgia, one of the things we encourage people to do is talk with their ag extension. The farmers, they're not looking at the politics necessarily. They're looking at what does this have to do with my crops and my seeds and all that sort of thing. So I wondered if there was a site or something that you guys monitor just to kind of see what other people are saying.
Yes, there are different organizations that I look at. For example, one is Citizens Climate Lobby. They're not conservative, they are not liberal, they're not affiliated with any party, and they do bipartisan work. They generally have a very good sense of what's happening at the federal level. That's the big one that I can think of.
Yeah, and they have a Catholic section too, Citizens Climate Lobby as well. So
yes.
Give us your contact information.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is Drake Starling. Should I give my email as well?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Great. Yeah. Okay. So it's dstarling@networklobby.org. I am our senior government relations advocate for energy and environmental policy. That's a mouthful, and one day I might shorten it a little bit more.
All right.
Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm glad we're able to get together, and this won't be the last time, and I hope to do more webinars with you because that's exciting, very exciting with you.
Absolutely, yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Kat, that's a wrap for today. To our listeners, stay connected with us on social media and share your thoughts using the hashtag faith and sustainability.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. And I guess, Leonard, until next time, we'll meet
at the intersection of faith and sustainability.
The preceding podcast is a production of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Atlanta. Copyright 2025.